In this video, we're going to be showing you how to recreate the NS Fitness logo that you see here. Now, this is a great example of a fairly basic logo, but one that is going to show us and really kind of highlight some of the tools in CorelDRAW, some of the tools in EasyStone that I think really make both programs very special. When you try to recreate the same process using your Rhinestone software, you'll be able to tell the differences and just the way the tools work within CorelDRAW and EasyStone. I've used a lot of Rhinestone software, and I've just never seen the drawing and editing tools that can match what we have here in CorelDRAW. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to lock down our JPEG. So we'll right click on it and choose lock object. That way we cannot move it accidentally. Now the first part of the logo that we're going to tackle is the word fitness. Now there are a variety of ways to do this, and we could possibly have a font, a Rhinestone font that we've purchased perhaps, or that we could just type out the word fitness, but that would be doing it the lazy man's way. And really our goal here is to show you how you can create a design using CorelDRAW, using EasyStone. So we don't really want to take any shortcuts because you may or may not, first of all, have a Rhinestone font. So how would you create this text if you didn't? That's what our goal is here. Now, we do not have a vector version of this, and most of the time when we're working with our customers, we're not going to. So we're going to have to just use what we have. Now, there are a variety of ways to tackle any particular project. What we're going to do though is we're going to show you one technique that requires the least amount of knowledge. That's our aim here. So when you're first starting out with CorelDRAW, you're first starting out with EasyStone, we're going to walk you through basic techniques. I've got a problem, I need to create a Rhinestone design for this, and show you just the most basic technique. We're going to try and not require a whole lot of knowledge. So with that said, first things first, you can see that I have my document. You can see my logo's up here towards the top, and I have all this white space down below. And we can define that. I've defined my size as 10 by 20 up here in my page size window. I have my EasyStone macro open. I am going to come in here and open up my object manager. So there's my object manager. You can see I have my lock bitmap there. And what we're going to do is we're going to define the color, our stone color. And this example, let's just use, I don't know, let's just use citrine. Doesn't really matter what color we use. And then for my SS10 size stone, we'll use 3.2 with a 0.5 spacing. And I'm going to choose this function right here, drop stone. And you can see all it did is right here in the center of my page is one tiny little dot. Okay, and I'm just going to move it up here over my letter F, just like so. Now what I need to do is come into my stone fill tab, and we have this offset function down here. Now the amount of offset is calculated by our stone size and our spacing. So we can certainly override that, but that is the default. And so when I hit my down arrow, watch what happens. See how it just offsets that stone? And I just click as many times as I needed to get the approximate height of my letter F. And then I can select that whole row and click again, and it duplicates the whole row. And then I can select this part and click a couple of times. Now if I have a couple that are dangling over like I do there, we'll just go ahead and select those and delete those. And then I'm going to select these four. And there's my letter F. So you can see, very simple to do. Now, we're going to go ahead and take these first two rows and copy them where I need them elsewhere. So left click and drag, hold my shift key down to constrain to a horizontal movement, and then just right click when I'm over the area I want to make a duplicate. See there, I just right click, and as soon as I let go, I've created a duplicate. I select it again. Now this time, because I know I'm going to be copying it numerous times, let me show you another CorelDRAW shortcut. I left click and drag, hold my shift key down to constrain to a horizontal movement, but then I just hit my space bar. Space bar. Space bar. Space bar. So I'm keeping my shift key held down all the time and just hitting my space bar till I get to the last one, and then just let go. I don't need to hit my space bar because I don't need to make another copy of it. So then for my letter T, I select these four, offset. I select these four, offset. There's my letter T taken care of. And then for the letter E, we're just going to select this grouping at the top, those first 4 stones, hold my shift key down, the bottom 4, the middle 4, and then boom. So you can see how it copied over the whole loot at once there. Very, very easy to do. So we'll go ahead and delete those ones that overlap, and I want the middle one to be a little bit shorter than the top 2, so there is my letter E. Now what do we do for our letter N? Well, we take our top stone, we'll offset it, and then we're going to take this stone here, we're going to offset it to the left, okay, and then we can reposition this down. So I'm just going to actually move it up, something like so. And then I'm going to take these 2 stones. So I have one stone selected, hold my shift key, grab the other stone, and hit shift, add stones. And you can see what Easy Stone automatically does is create a series of stones in between those 2 stones. Now once I have that row of stones, then I can just copy that down. Remember, left click and drag, and then right click to make a duplicate. And that is my letter N. Now, I'm not really particularly thrilled with this center area here, or here, but that's nature of rhinestones. It cannot be perfect. It's got to give somewhere, and I think honestly that it gives us the best look. There's some other things that we could do there, but at the end of the day, I think that's the best look. Now, what do we do here with the letter S? And this is where I think CorelDRAW really shines, because what looks to be complicated is super, super easy. Let me show you how we take care of our letter S. Now, there are a lot of drawing tools here in CorelDRAW. Freehand, 2-point line, Bezier, Artistic Media, Pen, B-Spline, Polyline, and 3-point curve. Why on earth do we have so many tools? Well, the reason we have so many tools is because in certain circumstances you want to use one tool over another. Now, if there's one tool to learn in all of these, it's the 3-point curve tool. We can create almost anything that we would ever need to create with that one tool. So learn that tool, practice with that tool. This is going to be a great example to show you how you can quickly generate this letter S with just this one function. So let me show you how it works. Now, we've already seen that 2 rhinestones is about the same width as the letter. Alright, so what we're going to do is come in slightly. We're coming in slightly on the inside. So we're not right here on the edge of the S, but just inside a little bit. And click and drag. Okay, now notice the spacing between the edge of the S and where I started. We're going to do about the same thing over here. And so you see that, let me just right click on that line segment so you can see that line segment. So we hover over the edge and we'll make another little line segment. Pull it down so you can see how we're kind of just following the outline of our letter S, right? Very, very simple. Little line segment. Okay. Little line segment. Going to make that swooping action around there. Practice with this. Now, I've done this so many times in various different logos. So practice, practice, practice. And then we'll just finish this off here. So you understand how that tool works. Now, if we look at that line, it almost looks like my 3rd grader drew it, right? Because it's a little bit squiggly, wiggly, but you know what? For rhinestone design, for our purpose here, it's going to be perfectly fine. Now, if we really wanted to get in there and refine it, we could grab our Shape Edit tool, and like this node right here, see how it's like maybe a little bit close? If I really wanted to, I can pull it back. I could add a node just by double-clicking on the line there, double-clicking on the line here. See how it's a little bit pointed? If I double-click on that to get rid of the node, so I added an anchor node on either side, double-click on the node. Now you see how nice and smooth that is? So you can get really particular, okay? But like I said, for our purpose, we don't need to be too particular. And in future videos, we're going to get into node editing like none other, where it actually matters. But in this case, it doesn't matter. So now that we have that one curve, we need a second curve. And the reason that we're creating these curves is because we're going to be adding stones to them. So let's come over here to our stone fill tab. We have this island fill option. So I'm going to increase that by 1 island fill and hold my shift key down and click island fill. Now you can see what happens here. Let me change the color. See what it did? It just offset that line 3.7 millimeters and it made a duplicate. But it made a duplicate on both sides. So we need to grab our Shape Edit tool, grab this node right here, and hold our shift key down and grab this node over here. and we're coming to our editing tab, break at nodes. Now, what we need to really do here, let me just select, I didn't hold my shift key down apparently. We'll go ahead and select that, break at nodes. Oh, what's happening here? Alright, so we need to define an angle value here, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's go do 35 and let's do 120. And then let's select those two nodes again. Shift key, grab, so I have that node and this node selected, so choose break at nodes. And what that does is I can actually delete this whole outline segment now. So instead of that being just one piece, it broke it apart. And of course this one right here, I could delete that. I grab my shape edit tool and see how this line overhangs. I just double click on the end and that trims it back. And then this one too, see how it overhangs? Double click on the end nodes and it trims it back. So now you can kind of see that in this process, more or less, not perfect, but more or less, the distance from the edge of my S to my first line is more or less the same as the distance from the edge of my letter S to my second line all the way around. So now I can add stones to it. So let's just go ahead and select those two lines, come over here to my stones and choose add stones. And voila, there are my stones for my letter S. So you can see that is the basic principle of how rhinestone programs work. They need to plot down a path, then they apply the stones to the path. And that's essentially how all rhinestone programs work. So now that we have one letter S created, we can just right click and drag and make a duplicate. And so there is our duplicate. So now our fitness word is taken care of. Now we can take a look at a similar procedure for the NS part of the logo. Now, the NS part of our logo is probably going to be a lot easier for you because we went through the process of the letter S, and that process is essentially the same process that we're going to use for the NS. So again, we're going to grab our 3-point curve tool. Now, what we're going to do is kind of pretend that these little hooks don't exist. So watch what we're going to do. 3-point curve. There is our first line. Come to the end. There is our second part of our curve. Come to the end. Little line segment. There's our third part of our curve. Really tight right here. And then, again, we're going to ignore the hook. Come all the way to the end there. And there you go. So let me just change the color of that so we can see that more specifically, and maybe I'll even change the thickness so you can see that in more detail. So you can see how I kind of followed that S. Again, it's not, the curve itself is not perfectly smooth, but it doesn't need to be for our example. Now we're going to do the same thing as we did previously in regards to the stone fill. We're going to island fill 1, shift key, island fill. Creates an offset. Again, we're going to change the color of that offset so now you can see the offset. And then, just like before, we're going to grab that new line that we just created, grab this node, hold our shift key down, come up here and grab this node, and choose the editing tab, break at nodes. So now we can delete the outside line there, and then we'll grab our shape edit tool and just edit that line back into line where we need it to be. Really, really simple. Okay. Now, this is a very thick line, which the thickness of the line is irrelevant. Because when we go to our stone tab and choose add stones, you're going to see it adds the stones to the line. Now, we do have a small problem here, and that is right here. See where this stone overlaps right here? That, because of the area is so tight, when it makes that bend, it's very tight there, so we have an overlapping stone situation. So I'm actually going to undo that add stone function because we can address that very, very simply. And let me show you how that works. So we're going to go and grab our shape edit tool, and right at that bend, where it's super tight right there, just double click on the line. That is going to add a control point. Then we're going to select that one singular node, and when I come back over here to my editing tab, choose break at nodes. Now, you don't really necessarily see anything happen, but if you understand what's happening, it's going to make it a lot easier for you to get the editing results that you want. What actually happened there, we created a node right there in the very center. We selected the node, and then we told it to break this line at that node. So now what we have is we have two completely separate lines. And the way Easy Stone works is it adds a stone at the beginning and ending of every line. So, with that said, let's go ahead and grab those 3 line segments now and come back over here to Stone and choose Add Stones. And now you can see the difference, right? Right here in the corner, perfect spacing. It's not overlapping now because we have one stone that's starting and ending at that line. So it's perfect. So that's exactly what we needed. Now we do want to kind of resemble these hooks. And when you're working with rhinestone designs, what you're often going to have to do is educate your customer or what's realistic. We're not going to get necessarily the exact logo representation. We have to kind of use a bit of artistic license in a lot of cases. And that's what we're going to do here on the hook. So what we're going to do here is select those stones that we just created and choose break stones. And what that does is now each stone is its own individual object. And I'm just going to move this stone around here like this, and then just duplicate and hand place the hook. Okay, so we're going to hand place the hook, and one more maybe, hand place the hook. Something to that effect. Okay, so and then we're doing the exact same thing to the bottom. So we're just going to delete one stone, and this is just, you know, your own personal choice. Obviously, the customer here is going to have to tell us whether they like it, whether they don't like it. Okay, and one more if we want for the bottom hook. So that takes care of our top hook and a bottom hook, and it kind of represents the original logo. Now, what do we do with the letter N? Well, basically it's the same process. So we just grab our 3-point tool, make that tight little curve there, come up here to this point here. We're going to come around the corner here, down to this point here, and one straight line. So you can even make straight lines, or more or less straight lines, I should say. Okay, we're going to right click once again, and there is the letter N. And just like before, we're going to have to come into our stone fill, do one island fill to the outside. Okay, so there is the island fill to the outside. So there's our line. We're going to grab a couple of nodes, just like so, and we're going to choose that selection or the editing tab, break at nodes, just like we did previously. And we'll go ahead and grab our node edit tool to bring that back in line where we need it to be, right there and right here. Okay, so I can't really see this line very well sitting on top of my graphics, so let me change the color. That will make it a little bit easier to see. Alright, so now we kind of have that one line segment taken care of, and then the outside line here, we have that as one line segment too, right? So I'm going to go ahead and select both of those line segments now, and then we're going to go back to our stone tab and choose Add Stones. And we'll do the inside line and add stones to it too. So now you can kind of see how that letter N is going to come into place. Now, what we're going to do though is we're going to take both of those pieces, and we're going to take this stone and line it up right dead center on top of that one. And then we're going to make a small edit to the path of this one. So grab our path edit tool here, select on the path, and we'll just make a small change there. Now you can see in that process of doing that, we modified these stones just a touch. So what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and break those stones, and I'm just going to make a small tiny little edit to just kind of center that spacing just like so, and that's it. So now we have that part of the letter N. So now the next piece of the puzzle is to make this kind of looping function here, and we're just going to kind of do that by eye. So we're just going to first of all kind of follow the existing one there. So, and then we're going to go ahead and choose Add Stones to it. And then we're going to decide where we like it, where we don't like it, if we need to move it just slightly. And we do need to move it just slightly. There we go. So then the next part is to go ahead and grab, and I'm just going to kind of just, I'm just really loosely eyeballing it here. because we can modify the path once we get some stones on it. So now you can kind of see where that secondary one is. So when I grab my shape edit tool here, I can come in here and grab the path of this and really come in here and tweak this as much as I need to. Maybe I'll add an anchor point there. I'll add an anchor point here. We'll get rid of this to curve that out some more, and then we can kind of really fine tune exactly where we want this path to be. And just like down here, we can come in here, we can move this. That's the nice thing about being able to adjust stones on the path, because once I have my stones here, then I can see, well, I need to make an adjustment here. So I'll move it away from there a little bit, and I'll pull this this stone down, and you can really just manipulate these stones exactly the way you want them to appear. Okay, so maybe we'll do something along those lines. I think will be fine. So we'll go ahead and select those two, and then I can choose break stones. And then just like before, I'm going to go ahead and delete, and we'll just go ahead and move this one around here, and we'll do that same hook like we did previously. Alright, so now we have the NS part of our logo done. We have the fitness part of the logo done. Let's go ahead and just pull that duplicate over. I always like to make a duplicate, leave the original work up, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to right click to get rid of all of our outlines so we can really see what this design looks like. And then we'll go to our miscellaneous tab and add a weed box around our design, and there we have the design. Now we can, and then we can, from here we can kind of fine tune it. And the only thing that I really see here that I would like to maybe change a little bit is I would like these stones to be better fit right here. So maybe we can just kind of tweak things a little bit, and we can move these stones around to just better fill in that area. Just to make them a little bit tighter there. And it's it's really just a matter of personal preference. You see this gap right here? That's what I'm not liking. So I wish we had that situation, and then we can kind of move stones around. But that's really being pretty critical. The average person wouldn't probably see that. And then it looks like actually this secondary line here, I got these stones a little bit close. I didn't catch that in my earlier editing. So what we'll do here is we'll just nudge these stones out a little bit. Obviously, normally we wouldn't want to hand. I try not to move too many stones. I want to do most of my editing without having to move too many stones. But it's easy enough to make that small tweak now that I see that. And same problem right here. See that little gap right there? Boy, I really don't like those gaps. So if we can at all try and squeeze that in there, I would go ahead and take the time to make a couple of changes there, so we didn't have. Maybe do something like that, and we'll get rid of this one here. And then, to kind of fit this a little bit better, we'll just go ahead and delete that stone. And we just kind of have to come in here and shift these stones a little bit. Again, normally I wouldn't want to shift that many stones, hand moving this many stones, but it's simple enough to make those small adjustments as we go. And then here we can just go ahead and move these up and move these around. Get that little hook going again. There we go. So just a small little change there. I think it definitely improves the overall look of the logo. I'm usually a lot more particular than my customers probably would be. But you can compare that to the original JPEG. Let's go ahead and unlock this and compare that logo to the original. And you can see it definitely captures their logo, the essence of their logo, but we did have to make a couple of small changes. And you can see, like here in the letter S, the middle part of the letter S is a little bit thinner than the top and bottom, whereas here it's all one size. But we did more or less capture the essence of their logo and a nice looking rhinestone design. So that just kind of gives you a couple of other techniques and you begin to look at logos differently. And when you see certain logos, you say, okay, this is how I'm going to tackle this particular situation. And every situation has its own unique challenges. So hopefully this will get your mind thinking the next time you need to create a logo, some different techniques that you can use.